Edges are places where one thing transitions to another. So you have kind of two things represented simultaneously with an edge. Edges define the thing that's contained by the edge. They literally, construct the perimeter and define the form of it. Edges are places where things are pushed or where things are drawn from. You describe the middle, the core, the essence of a place. Often it's very hard to determine what the middle is, but you describe its sort of essence by describing its edge. You get a full tour, the French, a turn around it that circumscribes it, and that is another way of defining a thing, is by its perimeter, right? By the limits of it, where it ceases to be, and where it is and where it ceases to be. So that's one thing about edges, but also edges tend to be the things that people avoid, that people don't notice, don't think about so much. So there's a lot of things that occur in these marginal zones that are not generally kind of incorporated into the equation of considering, the totality of a space.
Can you give an example?
Oh, well, on a sort of national scale, one of the great edges, are these sort of the zones where things go, where the population kind of diminishes to the point where you have empty, almost, it's perceived as empty space, and all kinds of things moves into that empty space that likes empty space. We describe that sort of notion of an internal margin, as being kind of like the Great Basin of the United States. You can look at the edges of the country, or the edges of the San Francisco Bay, I guess another example. People spend a lot of time recreating in certain parts of the edges of the bay in these very reconstructed, reclaimed landscapes, but most of the edge of the bay is this sort of zone people have turned their backs on. It's the dumping grounds, it's in sort of industrial areas, and so it's both the kind of back space and the front space. The reason why the city was established was because of the port, protected harbor, and so it was a big maritime economy that then sort of disappeared over time, and the front door then became, in a way, the back door, as the railroads and the cars, ended up providing the front doors for our cities, and so the waterscape ends up being a relic and a back space. So it's a place that is full of these sort of dichotomies. It's both the front door, a back door, a dumping ground, the most expensive real estate. It's all of those things sort of converging in this sort of liminal span. The marginal zones. Another reason why they're interesting, I think, in general, at least for me, is that because they are the point where something transitions to another thing, you're actually kind of looking at relationships between places at the same time you're looking at a place, and that's important to consider, because everything has a neighbor, there is a next door, there is a backyard and a front yard, and for every, there's another side of the coin.